Hello there, and welcome to episode 11 of Colonization Project. Right now we are launching Explorer on its second flight up to orbit, and it is going to be carrying, not much actually, it's going to be carrying one small reaction wheel, and that's about it. Because we have a contract to repair a satellite in low carbon orbit. And for some reason, that satellite needs a reaction wheel, even though it can control its attitude perfectly fine with what it currently has. So I'm not sure why they need it, but I mean, we don't make the contracts, we just complete them. So that's what this mission is supposed to do. It's not really doing anything else except for the fact that it will be grabbing the satellite out of orbit because it's not really doing anything, and otherwise it'll just be more space junk. I'm not sure what the other agency is doing with that satellite. If it's not a relay satellite, it's not in any specific orbit. It's just in a really high orbit above Kerbin, sort of halfway in between the Mun and Kerbin. So I'm not sure what they're using it for, but oh well. Didn't look like they had any cameras on it, so I don't think it was a spy satellite or a weather satellite because it doesn't have any cameras on it. I mean, it could have cameras. I don't know. But that is the mission of this. And that's about it. It is slowed down to the launch is slowed down to 1 times regular speed because I tried to have a nice cinematic flyby shot of the shuttle going up, because you don't really get to see many cinematic shots in Colonization project because all it's just me playing Kerbal Space Program, and then it's sped up by 4 or 6 times speed, like it is now. Otherwise, it would get boring really fast, and I'm also not sure how I would be able to talk over like an hour of footage and not have anything new to talk about. That would make the commentary probably really terrible. But now it's back to 4 times speed because the flyby shot is over, and we can get to the main mission, which is getting into orbit and going to repair that satellite and steal it. Steal it, I mean repair it. We are definitely not stealing a satellite today. We are taking it back to Kerbin for further inspection and analysis. That's definitely what we're doing. But anyways, we have gotten into orbit and can now plot our rendezvous with the satellite. These space shuttles are actually they're becoming the workhorse of the space program. Before, the Sarnis booster was the workhorse, but now we have the space shuttle, and it's been like nothing but space shuttle launches for the past episode, maybe. I don't remember what was in the last episode because that came out 2 weeks ago. But I do believe we launched a lot of space shuttles in that episode, like 2. So yeah. That's because you can do a lot of things with the space shuttle. You can do a lot of things very quickly with the space shuttle because it has that giant cargo bay, so you can launch satellites, you can grab satellites, you can do science, you can rescue Kerbals, you can do anything with the space shuttle, except maybe go interstellar with the space shuttle. I mean, that you could go interstellar with a space shuttle if you put like a fusion rocket on it, but we don't have fusion rockets. In case you haven't noticed, those are not fusion rockets. They are chemical engines. So not the most exciting thing, but oh well, we are limited by the technology of our time. But, I mean, maybe if you fill a space shuttle all the way up with fusion pellets and put a Kerbstein drive on it, maybe you could go interstellar with that. I mean, maybe not a Kerbstein drive. I would say a Daedalus drive, but those Daedalus drives are really big, and I don't think you could fit one on a shuttle. But I mean, maybe. I mean, anything can go interstellar if you're willing to wait really long times. Because yeah, you can go interstellar with anything, but if you want to get there within, say, 1,000 years, you need fusion rockets. Because traveling 4 light years of distance is no easy feat, so you need to go really fast, and you can't really go really fast with chemical rocket engines, which is why we put fusion reactors in space. I mean, we haven't put a fusion reactor in space. I think we put like a couple fission reactors in space, but as far as I know, there's no fusion reactors. Fusion reactors on Earth, they're quite big, and putting them in space would be quite hard with our current technology, and we don't even have fusion energy yet, so yeah, it would be very expensive and not really have much of a payoff. But enough about fusion engines. We have attached a reaction wheel, which completed the contract. Now we can do whatever we want with the satellite. And what we want to do is we want to take the satellite back home. And we want to take it back home and use it for further inspection, and definitely not stealing the satellite. But it was kind of hard to do this because the RCS thrusters on the satellite didn't have translation in one axis. I'm not sure. I think it's axis. Anyways, it didn't have translation in one of those, so we just have to get Bill Kerman out to push the satellite forward or backwards, because it didn't have control in that. But it can control itself in any other way, so we just use the RCS for that. Oh, and also the space shuttle ran out of monopropellant, so that's why we can't use the space shuttle. But we have grabbed the satellite. We have also grabbed the antenna and put it in the inventory space of the we put it in the inventory space of the shuttle, and the antenna is very overpowered. We don't have access to it currently because we don't have enough science to unlock that tech node, and it's a really powerful antenna, and it's that antenna that can extend all the way out to Joule, so we might as well use it for our own use, because I don't know why. Because it's cool, I guess. But right now we are re-entering the space shuttle, and we're trying to land it back at the runway. Because in case you haven't noticed, or in case you haven't watched the last 2 episodes, we haven't managed to land a space shuttle at the runway yet. And that's a pretty bad record of not landing the space shuttle properly. So we want to do it properly this time, because I think landing it on the runway is more cool than landing it in a grassland, because that's what happened on the last 2 flights. The first flight ended up we ended up stalling the orbiter and ended up coming a bit short of the Space Center. On the second flight, we ran out of electric charge and went into a flat spin and ended up in those grasslands you can see we're flying over right now. But this time, I did keep enough speed, so we didn't stall the orbiter this time. And I remembered to start the fuel cells, because in real life, the space shuttle didn't have solar panels. It had fuel cells, because solar panels, they're kind of fragile, and I don't know why you wouldn't put solar panels. But the fuel cells are what the space shuttle used. So we just used them, and we managed to land at the runway this time. Our next launch is not a launch, actually. We are returning to the Minmus orbital outpost, and we are taking the lander back down to the surface to complete a contract, because we have a contract to do so. This contract requires us to hop around a couple biomes and collect science, because for some reason they have the technology to discover temperature anomalies on the surface, but they don't have the technology to find out where. Doesn't make much sense. But once again, we don't make the contracts, we just do them. And this one was paying like 200,000 funds to do it, so might as well. Also, we need more science for the science labs, and we might as well get paid for it. You will see here that on landing, we do land on a slope and break one of the solar panels. We still have that one solar panel, so it's not too big of a deal. But we will be sending up a resupply module in the future with all sorts of like repair kits and EVA experiments in order to repair that. I'm not sure why we would need EVA experiments to repair that. But we have landed, and we can now get some of the science and head off to the next waypoint. This mission actually took a lot of fuel. It took like a quarter of the lander's fuel, probably even more. So in the future, we will be designing a new lander for this, which will have more fuel, more cargo capacity, more science, and more crew capacity, because right now we can only carry 3 Kerbals down to the surface, and I don't really like the look of this lander. It was based off the design of... This one was based off the design of our first Minmus lander, but I couldn't have the command capsule that we used on it, because the top of the Mark 1 to the Gemini command pod is too small for the medium-sized docking ports, and that's what we use on the space station. So we had to upscale it a bit, and I believe we added a few more like science experiments and stuff. But in the future, it will be a completely new lander design. Actually, it won't, but a completely new lander design for the series, because as you'll I've designed the lander twice, so it's not the first time I've built the lander, but it's the first time I've built it in the series, which you will see probably in episode 13 or 14, I believe. I still have it edited, and I need to record the post commentary for it, but that will have to wait, because I'm going to try and record. Maybe I might be able to. I'm not sure. I'm going to try and record episode 13 and episode 14 back to back, because it's been 2 weeks since the last episode, and I might as well try and keep up with the schedule of one episode every week. So that hasn't happened. So maybe I will still have an average of 1 episode a week. Maybe. I don't know if I'll get to that, because this episode is 31 minutes and 37 seconds long. Plus or minus a second, of course, because YouTube. But we have completed that contract, and we also have a contract to pick up a Minmus stone. What's it called? I'm not sure what it was called. It was like a Minmus green sandstone. So we just send Tombo Kerman out to pick it up, and we get some money for that. Actually, we have to return it back to Kerman first, but we will get some money from that. But now that the contract is complete, and I believe we actually had 3 contracts on this mission. We had a contract to plant a flag on Minmus, we had a contract to pick up a green sandstone, and then we had the temperature scan contract. So we're actually gaining a lot of money from this mission. I really like to do that, sort of combine a lot of contracts into one mission. It's a really efficient way to do things, and it gets us a whole lot of money, which is probably why we haven't run into any money problems in this series. Although we have ran into one money problem in the series in episode 4, I believe. Yeah, it was episode 4, where we had to upgrade the R&D center in order for us to go to the Mun. And that... yeah, we had to go to the Mun in episode 4, or else the space agency probably would have been bankrupt, and that wouldn't have been good. You can't go interstellar on a bankrupt space program, because first off, you wouldn't be able to build the interstellar colony ship. Then you wouldn't be able to fuel it up, because fusion pellets are really expensive. Actually, they're not expensive. Actually, they cost $0 if you manufacture them off-world, because you're manufacturing them yourself. You're not buying them, and I'm also not sure where you would get 1,000 tons of helium-3 on Kerbin, because helium-3 is really rare and you use it for fusion. Yeah, it's basically impossible to get like 1,000 tons of helium-3 probably without lithium, like some weird process with lithium. I don't know fusion that well. But yeah, that was episode 4 was like the only time where we actually ran into problems with money, and since then it's basically been, we've just been gaining funds because of our reusability architecture. Like not almost everything. The most expensive parts of the mission are reused, like the shuttle orbiter, because it has those expensive vector engines on the bottom, which are really expensive, but I mean, we can reuse them, so that brings the cost down to like 2, maybe 3, I don't know. Sarcasm, obviously. But if we had to manufacture those vector engines each time, they would cost us like millions of funds, because each one of those costs like, I don't know how much they cost, maybe like, actually I'm not sure how much they cost, but they're really expensive, so we might as well try and reuse them. The Sarnis boosters are also kind of expensive to manufacture, as well as the Raptor engines, which is why we reuse the Starship, which you will see later in this episode. And yeah, we reuse the expensive parts, and the parts that are just too expensive to reuse, like the Pallades launch vehicle, the Constellation boosters, or the launch vehicles that we will be building in the future, i.e. not the 3.75 meter one, will all be expendable, because then it's just more effort to reuse them than it's worth. And if we don't. If we reuse some of it, not all of it, but if we reuse some of it, then we will be able to get enough funds to be able to expend the other things that aren't worth reusing, like the Palladius boosters and all that. But actually, I'm not sure why I said "but" there. My goodness, what I'm trying to say is on the tip of my tongue. I just can't say it. What I'm trying to say is that once we hit the point where it doesn't cost us any money to reuse, it doesn't really put a dent in our space program to not reuse some boosters, then it's all about the time it takes to make the boosters. And if it only takes a couple days, like 7 days, to manufacture a new booster, I actually think I have a new launch vehicle that will be coming soon. Will take like 2 days to manufacture. So once we hit that point, then it really doesn't hurt to expend a couple things. But on to the mission at hand. We are trying to do a rideshare mission with the space shuttle, and it was designed to carry 2 relay satellites and a Moho lander and a Moho orbiter into orbit and beyond, in the case of the Moho lander and orbiter. But they're all using ion engines, and for some reason, the ion engines don't work. They don't work at all, because actually I'm not sure why they don't work, but it looked like they were firing, but they weren't. They didn't produce any thrust in any direction, not even like a tiny amount of thrust. They had xenon, and they had electric charge, so I'm not sure why they weren't working, but oh well. So we're bringing them all back, and we can perform some detailed analysis as to why the ion engines aren't working. But you can see we are returning to the Space Center in a 90-degree nosedive, which probably isn't the safest thing to do, but oh well, Kerbal standards of safety are non-existent. That's a perfectly realistic thing for a space shuttle to do. Go into a 90-degree nosedive and then pull out of it at the last second. Perfectly realistic. Nothing wrong with that. But now we are launching a fully stacked Starship into orbit. That's what this is. It is a fully stacked Starship. This is actually a prototype that we launched in the last episode. Just to prove that the landing system worked. And it did, which is kind of strange considering what will happen later in this episode. But you can see we also have a booster underneath it. Otherwise, it probably wouldn't make it to orbit. And we are launching it exactly there, to orbit. Because there's not really anywhere else for it to go. It could go to, like, the Mun, but... oh, well, realism! I'm not sure why I said it like that. It wasn't sarcastic. Real Starship is only going to orbit for now. But yeah, we're taking it to orbit, and we're also trying to reuse everything because these things are kind of expensive to make. They're not that expensive to make. I would just rather reuse them than blow them up each time. Because, they're stainless steel grain silos that hold fuel. Then also, they have very complex rocket engines. But Now we're trying to reuse the booster, and as you may be able to see, it has no legs. That's because I made the poor decision of trying to do it like in real life, as they will do in real life, and catch it with the launch tower. You can see we're almost hit by a piece of space junk there. We should probably clean that up so we don't actually get hit by a piece of space junk. I mean, that would be kind of cool if something Kerbal Space Program got hit by a piece of space junk accidentally, because that's really rare for that to happen. Anyways, we are now returning to the launch site, and this took way too many attempts to do. I might do another video that's just the booster failing to land, but this took a lot of attempts to do. But we eventually do land it in the quote-unquote catch arms. They're definitely not just stationary steel girders, which they are, because we don't really have advanced robotics yet, and even if we did, the joints would be like really flimsy, and otherwise it wouldn't be the best. We might as well just catch it in a static test firing arm. But static test firing arm, that wasn't a test fire. Anyways, what we are doing now is we are trying to return the Starship back home. You did see I did try spinning there because we had way too much fuel to land. The engines won't have enough thrust. So I just I just tried to spin the Starship around and drain all of the fuel, because we don't have a drain valve here. That will be a feature in future Starships, but we don't have that feature right now, so that was just the solution I came up with. But we are now trying to return it to the launch site. Very much like a space shuttle for the first part, but at the last part it won't be, because Starship doesn't fly like a plane, it flies like a Starship. It flies like, it re-enters like a space shuttle. It falls like a skydiver. Like, it doesn't fly, it falls. I guess you could say it's falling with style. But it's not a plane, in case you haven't noticed. Starship is not a plane, it is a rocket. And it is not a space plane, it is a rocket. So we're trying to re-enter it like that. We're not trying to re-enter it like a shuttle. It's not a star shuttle, it's a starship, but it's not a boat either. It's a rocket. So we're trying to land it like one. I mean, sort of like one. I mean, you get what I mean, or you don't, because the sentences that I just said probably made absolutely no sense whatsoever. So you might have understood what I was trying to say. You might also have not understood what I was trying to say. I was trying to say that it sort of re-enters like the space shuttle, but then it lands like this part we're doing right now. It's like a skydiver, but going like 7,000 meters per second. Not 7,000 meters per second. That's orbital velocity in real life. 700 meters per second. I mean, if a skydiver went 7 kilometers per second, yeah, that's really fast. But Starship doesn't land like that. Actually, it does land like a skydiver. It doesn't land like a space shuttle, so that's what we're trying to do. We are trying to land it as realistically as possible, and as you will be able to see, eventually, once this sped up footage slows down to regular speed, which will be any second now. I'm trying to time this almost perfectly. Oh, yes, right now is when it slows down, and we are going to try and reignite the engines after it unfreezes. Yes, we are reigniting the engines and trying to flip the Starship to vertical, and it doesn't work. Not sure what caused this, but we will have it be fixed. Like, we will increase the torque of the reaction wheels, because I'm pretty sure that's what happened here. But you can see we are not recovering from this, so we end up crashing into the ground and blowing up the Starship. I mean, thankfully, as you will see, the 3 engines do survive, and the nose of it survives too. But we will return to this maybe in the next episode, I don't know. But that will be the end of this episode. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.